CRS score. What is that? How do I use it? How do I find out what is my CRS score? Today we're going to be touching on all of those topics, and let's dive right in. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelly, and this is Kelly's Travels. My family and I moved to Canada 2 years ago from Trinidad and Tobago, and on this channel I talk about immigration adventures as well as my entrepreneurship adventures, and let's dive right into it. But before we do, please smash that like button and subscribe if you want more content like this. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the CRS Score Calculator. We're going to be playing around with it a little bit, looking at options and seeing how you can find out your CRS score using the CRS Score Calculator. Disclaimer, I am not an immigration consultant, nor do I have any services for sale around immigration. I just really like making videos about my immigration adventures, and because of that, I get a lot of persons asking me about like how to start the process, and the CRS Score Calculator is definitely a place. So we're actually going to be looking at how to get to the CRS Score Calculator. The easiest way that I have found is to just type in CRS Score Calculator. It comes up. Be sure to go onto the Canadian government's website. So you see anything that has www.canada.ca in it, that is definitely where you want to go. As opposed to all these other sites, which are probably like sponsored, they're probably like immigration consultants and some other people as well. This on top here is also the CRS Score Calculator from the Canadian government's website. So we're going to click on it. All right, so what it says here. So this is a tool that is used to create a score that will be used for express entry for skilled immigrants, right? So it's a tool. So legal disclaimer, this tool is intended solely for general guidance and reference purposes. In the event that any discrepancy between the results of this questionnaire and that provided by express entry electronic system, the results provided by the system shall govern. So in other words, if you get one figure here and you get another figure when you actually apply to express entry, that number that is given to you by the system that you applied with, that will be the correct one. This is just a tool. This is just like a gauge almost to see what your potential score is. And what I've realized is a lot of persons who actually come to this tool, myself included, when I was applying for express entry, or when I was actually considering to apply for express entry, I came to this tool before I had even gotten my Als exam done, before I had even gotten my education assessment. So this was just like a tool to gauge what are my chances for express entry. So a lot of the times persons who are using this tool, they don't necessarily have all of the different figures that they need, but I'll show you a way that you can kind of still use it without knowing your education, work experience, language ability, those kind of things that could potentially vary. So this tool would help you to calculate your comprehensive ranking system, which is the CRS score, based on the answers you provide below. The CRS is a point-based system that we use to access the score and score your profile and rank to assess your skills, education, language ability, work experience, and other factors. So use this tool if you are eligible for at least one express entry program and you have not yet filled out your express entry profile, but would like to see what your CRS score is or might be, right? So they're actually telling you this. So this is a tool that can be used to see what your CRS score might be. Or if you're invited to apply for permanent residency and want to see if a change in your profile may affect your CRS score. So even if you have already applied, but you're thinking to upgrade something, probably like your language results, or you gotten like a new certification in education and you want to see how it affects your score, you can use this tool as well. So the first thing you would see here is your marital status. You need to make sure that your CRS score is above the minimum point score of your rounds of invitation. So we'll get to that a bit later on. But basically, when you're finished with this, you can then go look to see what was the last score, cutoff score for the rounds of invitation to the last cutoff score. And then you can kind of just use your, you can gauge from that to see like what are your chances. So let's assume that I want to say that I am married. Why not? And is your spouse a common law partner, a citizen, or permanent resident of Canada? So no. Of course, this varies according to your particular situation, but I'm just going to go through it to give you all an idea of how your score can look. Right? Will your spouse or common law partner come to Canada with you? Well, yes. I don't want to leave him behind. All right. How old are you? Choose the best answer. If you're invited to apply, enter your age on the date you were invited. Or if you plan to complete an express entry profile, enter your current age. I think that is pretty straightforward, right? So let's assume that I'm 30 years old. I am married, and yes, my husband is going to be coming with me to Canada. So now we get into the meat and potatoes. What is your level of education? Enter the highest level of education for which you earned a Canadian degree, diploma, or certificate, or had an ECA, which is an Educational Credential Assessment, if your study was done outside of Canada. So that's interesting, right? So this is basically saying that if you studied outside of Canada, you would need to have that education assessed. So this is just making sure that your degree is not relevant, but it is a real degree from a real institution. It's not like fraudulent, right? The company that I used to get my assessment done was west.org, and I would link that below for you all. But there are many other different types of companies as well. You could do a simple YouTube search and I'm sure they'll pop up. But just know that if you plan to use your education that was gained outside of Canada, you would need to have this done before you can create your express entry profile. But let's just assume that I haven't had it done, but I know that I could get it done, right? And I'm just trying to see what is my score is going to be. I have a master's degree, so I'm going to click that. So there are many different options. There's non-secondary school, 1-year diploma, 2-year diploma, bachelor's, 2 or more certificates, diploma, master's, or a PhD. So I have a master's degree. Have you earned a Canadian degree, diploma, or certificate? Asking if you earned this degree in Canada. It's a Canadian diploma or certificate. And they have some conditions underneath that you could read through. But let's say for the purposes of this example that no, I acquired this degree while I was studying outside of Canada. So now it's asking me about my languages. Official language, right? So the official languages of Canada is English and French, and you would need to submit a test result that is less than 2 years old to apply on the express entry. So you have to basically prove that you are proficient in either English or French. You have to do this exam and have these results before you can create your express entry profile. Now, even if your first language is English, like myself, you still have to do this English exam. There's no getting away from it. So English or French, sorry. So the one that I did was Als. So are your test results less than 2 years old? The answer is yes. They want it to be less than 2 years old. I see a lot of times when persons make mistakes filling out this form, they read this question wrong for some reason. It's kind of worded a bit funny, I guess. So are your test results less than 2 years old? Yes, they are less than 2 years old. Which language test did you take? So there are many different types here, as you can see, but let's just say I took the Als exam. So this part also trips people up a bit because you may not have taken your Als exam just as yet. But what I would say is to get an idea of what is possible for you, a best case scenario, pick the highest results that they have in each section. And God forbid you actually don't get these highest results. This could always be manipulated, right? You could always take this test over and over and over again until you get some really good results. So I would say don't doubt yourself. For the highest results, just to see like the best outcome of what CRS score you can get on like the best possible outcome, right? So do you have any other language results? If you're bilingual, if you can speak English or French, you can put that in here. But for me, no, I do not. I can't speak French. I've tried many times, can't learn. And so I put not applicable, right? So then we're going to go down to work experience. So in the last 10 years, how many years of skilled work experience in Canada do you have? Note, in Canada, do you have? So this is asking if you have worked in Canada as a skilled worker in the last 10 years. And it has some conditions underneath there as well. And it also asks about knock code, which is a way in which the Canadian government uses to rate the level of skill needed for a particular job. But if you have worked in Canada in the last 10 years, you'll probably be very much familiar with what is your knock and your knock code. And if you aren't sure what your knock code is, there's a link there to go find out. But let's just pretend here that I have not worked in Canada as a skilled worker, never worked in Canada. So I'm going to say none or less than a year. So then it asks, in the last 10 years, how many total years of foreign skilled work experience do you have? So it must have been paid or full-time, right? In only one knock code, level A, B, or C. So this is basically asking how many years of skilled work experience do you have? Again, if you're not sure if your work experience is skilled according to this knock code strategy that they use, you can go up above and find your knock code for the foreign work experience that you have, if this applies to you, and see what they consider to be skilled or not. But let's just assume, for the purposes of this example, that I have 3 or more years of skilled work experience. I was a manager at a retail store, or I worked in one of those categories that they consider to be skilled, and I worked there for more than 3 years. So I'm going to put 3 or more years. So do you have a certification of qualification from a Canadian province, territory, or federal body? So no, I never did any qualifications or the certifications from a Canadian province or body. If that applies to you and it's yes, then feel free to put that. But for me, for the purposes of this exam, you're going to say no. I never got any kind of certification from any Canadian province, territory, or federal body. So now we're going to go down to additional points. Ooh. So do you have a valid job offer supported by a labor market impact assessment if needed? So let's assume that I do not have a valid job offer. So I just lost out on those additional points. So there are some options underneath here as well that you can read to make sure that you do qualify. But for purposes of this exam, we're going to say no. I do not have a labor market impact assessment, or I do not have a valid job offer. Do you have nomination certificate from a province or territory? So it may be that you actually got nominated by a province. Lucky you, congratulations. But for the purposes of this exam, no, unfortunately, no province wanted me in particular. So we're going to say no. I was not nominated by a province or territory. So do you or your spouse or common law partner, if they're going to come with you, that is, have at least one brother or sister living in Canada who is a citizen or permanent resident? To answer yes, your brother or sister must be 18 years older, and they have some other things there that you must do to be qualified. For the purposes of this example, I'm going to say no. I have no family, no friends, and definitely no brother or sister living in Canada. So I'm going to lose out on those extra points. Now we're talking about education. What is your highest level of education for which your spouse or common law partner has? So now you get some bonus points if your spouse or common law partner has earned a degree and had, of course, this educational credential assessment performed. Right, so for the purposes of this example, I'm going to say none or less than secondary school. Also, if by chance you did not have this education credential assessment done, you would also have to put none or less than secondary school education, right? So you can only claim points for education if you're planning to have this educational credential assessment done. And that applies for you or for your spouse. Think of it this way. Every single thing that you put in here, you would be asked to prove. You would be asked to prove. So if you don't plan to get this education credential assessment done, put that you don't have any education that you want to claim points for. Right? In the last 10 years, how many years of skilled work experience in Canada does your spouse or common law partner have? So has your spouse or common law partner worked in Canada as a skilled worker? If not, put none or less than a year. And again, these are all bonus points questions, right? So did your spouse or common law partner take a language test? If so, what are their results? So let's say that your spouse also took the Als exam with you and they aced it as well. We're going to put that in there. And these are just some variables, right? You get some nice bonus points if they did. And then that's it. I mean, it may be very hard to change your education or your work experience within a short space of time, but definitely your language tests, those are things that can be changed, right? Or like if you did not have an education credential assessment done, you can easily go get one. If you realize that a score is a bit low, you may decide, okay, you want to get one done for your spouse to also claim points for that. So let's get to the moment of truth. Let's calculate our score. So your results. All express entry candidates get a score out of 1,200, right? And there's a ranking system. So it's according to where you fall within that rank. So let's look at our total score. It's giving us a breakdown of everything that we got points for and we didn't get points for. So again, you would look at that and say, okay, where is it possible for me to gain points that I did not claim for? And what will be needed in order for me to get those additional points, right? Then you go straight down to the bottom, you would see that the score for the variables that I put into this form is 469. 469 is my grand total CRS score. So now that we have this figure, what do we do with it? That's a good question. Right, so then in our search bar, I'm just going to type in C or LAT. Latest cutoff score express entry. And then we're going to try to, of course, go back to the government's website because I see that as like a point of truth. Everything that I want to verify, I always try to go back to canada.ca, and I would advise you to do the same because there's a lot of information floating around out there and some of it may be outdated, which is why I try not to give too much details in my videos because you may be seeing this video 10 years later when nothing that I'm saying now actually applies to your particular situation. So I always advise everything that you read online, everything that you see on these YouTube videos, you try to always verify it by going back to canada.ca. So we're going to go into here to see what was the latest cutoff score. And let's just scroll down. We're seeing that as of today, the last cutoff score was on May the 31st, which was yesterday because I'm taping this on the 1st of June. And 5,956 persons were issued invitations. And the cutoff score was 380. So basically, the person that was ranked the lowest on this round of invitations, the 5,956th person scored 380. So if your score was anywhere potentially above that, then your chances of getting selected in the next round, or if you definitely had an express entry profile up and your score was above this, you would have been selected in this round. So now we can take this figure and we could look at our figure that we got when we use our CRS Score Calculator. We see that we have 469 points. And we know, hey, right now is a really good time for us. Like if we were in this pool, we would have been selected. We would have been given that invitation to apply. So this is kind of a good gauge to see if your score is above this threshold or below. If it's below, definitely try looking at other options. There are many different options for immigration to Canada. You may probably even try looking to get a consultant to see what is the best option for you. And just do some more research as well into ways that you can raise your CRS score. So I hope that this content was informative. I hope that you got a lot from it. So yeah, that is how you use the CRS Score Calculator. I just wanted to reiterate that the CRS Score Calculator is just a tool. It gives you an idea of what your score could possibly be and how you can manipulate it and change it up and those kind of stuff. Now, don't be disenchanted if your score just isn't up to par. Get the advice that you need, realize that there are other options available. Speak to a trained consultant, a certified immigration consultant if you have to. But just don't give up on your journey. If you want to come to Canada, know that the journey is a prize and eventually you can't end up here, right? So guys, just remain positive. Have a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the other side. I'm also going to link 5 mistakes to avoid as a new immigrant to Canada. So that's going to be linked right over there. Go check it out. Don't forget to like and subscribe.